I am in Rio de Janeiro this week in the Copacabana area. So that's a huge beach here. There's a long boardwalk. It's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 miles between Copacabana and Ipanema, and then I don't know what's on the other side, but there's a long boardwalk where you can go, and I'll post some videos, and you see vendors out there selling things. You can get food. There's restaurants. It's a really neat space. It's kind of loud. It's like a totally metropolitan, bustling city here, basically. It kind of reminds me of when I grew up in Costa Rica. I would walk around San Jose. People don't really do that a whole lot anymore, but downtown San Jose, I would walk to the buses and take taxis and stuff, and that's what it's like here. We've been taking Ubers. It's really easy to get an Uber. You can get one in 5 minutes. They'll come pick you up and take you wherever, and it's only like $4 or $5 wherever you want to go, basically. And then since we're like 2 blocks from the beach, we can walk down there, walk the boardwalk, go out to eat. Yesterday we went to a mall, and they already had Christmas up in the mall, a lot of Christmas trees and Christmas music, and the mall was really cool. We had lunch at this little cafe there where you can look out across the harbor, and you can see Sugarloaf Mountain there with the cable cars. We went on that tour. So the draw for me to come here, and it was really never on my radar map as far as somewhere that I would want to go, but I did want to see Christ the Redeemer, and that is one of the 7 wonders of the world, one of the new 7 wonders of the world. It's the 7th. And of course, since I'm all about religious stuff, then I was like, yeah, because we were picking between 2 or 3 other places, and I still want to go to those other places, but I really, really wanted to go to Christ the Redeemer. And a fun side note, my mom's grandparents used to come here on the weekends. They were wealthy people, is what I've been told. They were in the oil industry, and it was what was the name of the company? It's no longer in existence, this oil company that they were in. Standard Oil was the company that my great-grandparents were in. They sent them all over the world. My mom actually went to Saudi Arabia when she was just like 3 years old, because my great-grandparents were looking for oil there. And supposedly my great-grandfather is the one that discovered the oil, a lot of the oil out there in the Middle East. So it's no longer Standard Oil. I think it got bought out. I can't remember, but anyway, there's newspaper articles and a bunch of things. And so my mother was was an only child, and she grew up a very wealthy person, but her parents were very unhappy. They were alcoholics. They lived in the San Francisco area. My great-grandmother was like a very well-to-do person who would volunteer at the Grace Cathedral there in San Francisco, and that's where my mom was supposed to get married. I mean, all these stories. And then my great-grandfather, okay, so that's her grandmother. So my great-grandmother's husband, he died an early death, basically just the stress of, I don't know, they sent them to Bahrain Island. They had a house in Bahrain with servants, and they sent them all over. And so my mom didn't live that life. That was my mom's dad, Edward Allen Skinner Jr. So it was Edward Allen Skinner Sr. was the one that was in the oil, and he died in a hotel in New York City on his way back from one of these adventures. But we had so many photos when my grandfather Edward Allen Skinner died. they sent me a whole ton of stuff from him, just old photos and the history of the story. There was a journal. I still have that journal somewhere. There was a bunch of stuff. But it's this huge long story. It's even in newspapers and stuff. And so my mom was Edgar Allan Skinner Jr.'s daughter, and she was basically kind of became the black sheep of the family because she married a Pentecostal minister and they were not in agreement with that. So she kind of didn't get her inheritance and all this whole thing. I mean, it's kind of a sad thing. She didn't have a very good relationship with her dad, and I always would encourage her to try to fix that relationship, because I mean, you only have one dad. Her mom died a long time ago. Her mom died in the 70s. So she didn't have her mom. She didn't have any siblings. She had foster siblings. It's a really tragic story, my mom's story, because her dad was alcoholic, and then her leaving to the mission field kind of broke the relationship, and it was really sad. We still had a trust fund that was set up by my great grandmother that no one could touch. So that was still in effect. That my grandfather lived off of the trust. Had he not lived off of it, it would have been probably millions, but he lived off of the interest of it. And then when he died, my mother got to live off of the interest of it, and thank God, because she'd been on the mission field for 20 some years. I don't know what she would have done. She never worked. She wouldn't have had Social Security. I mean, so I'm glad that she had that. And then whenever my mom died 3 years ago, that trust was disbanded, and I don't know why I'm even saying this. I didn't mean to go into all of this, but whatever. And it went to all of the great-grandchildren, so we each got a portion of that. So that was part of my responsibility when my mom picked me to be her power of attorney for everything, financial and everything. That was a huge responsibility that I felt, to make sure that each of the great-grandkids, all 5 of us, because there were 6 of us, my little brother Nathan had died, so that left 5 of us, and it ended up we all got the same amount, but I had to protect that money, because had I put her in a nursing home that was government run, they would have invaded the trust and none of us would have gotten any of it. So that was a huge responsibility that I had at the time, to protect that. And it really helped my sisters that had both gone through divorces. It really helped both of them survive through those divorces. And it wasn't much. I mean, in today's world, I mean, it is a big chunk of money, but if you're living off of it, it won't last very long. So at least I was able to do that. And and now my brother's ill, and so we each got our portion, and some of us invested it, some of us lived off of it, just whatever. So that's my story. That's why I was saying this. That's why I wanted to come to Rio, because my great-grandparents used to fly here on the weekends, is what my dad would tell me. Some weekends. I mean, they were wealthy, so they just went all over, and maybe they had a place here, I don't know. So being here is kind of like, I think about that. Where would my great-grandparents have gone? They probably would have come to an area like this. Of course, it's very different in the 50s and 60s than it is now. And I just think about where would they have gone, and how cool, that they were here, and just kind of experience that. But the main draw for me was Christ the Redeemer. Seeing that wonder of the world that is a religious symbol was very dear to me, and I really truly believe that Christ is a Redeemer, and that He redeems us. He can redeem us from our sin. He redeems us. He's already redeemed us because He died for us, and so the majority of people out there don't recognize that, don't realize it, that we are already redeemed. But then we need to live a life that is worthy of that redemption, and we fall off all the time because we're sinners at heart. You know, we were born into sin. So we need to be redeemed continually. And that's kind of what I felt going to Christ the Redeemer. It was just like, we went the other day, so we went to a lot of tours. The first day we were here, we went on a walking tour, and this guide was just amazing. Kind of crazy. He's just all over the place, very type A, very go, go, go. And you know, I'm not. I'm like type B, like go with the flow. If we don't make it here, okay. If we do, fine. Of course, Christ the Redeemer, I had to make it to, but he didn't take us to that. He took us to this amazing library with all these books. You can see reels of that on Instagram and stuff. We went to, he took us to a monastery, this beautiful, beautiful chapel so there's an inner chapel that he said was Rococo style, and then the other chapel, the bigger chapel, was Baroque style, and it was all gold. I don't know if it was gold leaf. He said it was gold something. I can't remember, but it was all gold coloring. I mean, it is gorgeous. If I can figure out how to insert it here, I will insert it. It was just amazing. So the reason he took us to these churches is because, well, he took us to that one, and then I said, I love the churches and the religious type stuff. And I said, because I'm a minister. And he goes, what is minister? So this guy, he spoke like 4 languages. He's from Brazil, but he lived in Italy, I think. So he spoke Italian, he spoke Spanish, English, and Portuguese. And I think maybe a little bit of German. I don't know. This guy just... So he was speaking to us in English. But then he spoke to me in Spanish too, because he's like, do you speak just a little bit of Spanish? Do you really speak Spanish? And I'm like, oh. So I was talking to him in Spanish. So I said, instead of minister, he said, well, what is minister? And I said, it's like a pastor. I mean, I didn't want to say chaplain because that's even more confusing. A lot of people don't know what a chaplain does or is. And there are a lot of chaplains that are not devout Christians like me. I mean, you can get a weird chaplain too, but so there's not really a word for that. There is a word for it in Spanish, but it depends on what country you're from if you'll even recognize that word. So I just said like a pastor type, and he was like, oh. And then he started taking us to churches. He took us to, the next day we went on another walking tour because he took us so many places we ran out of time and it was dark. He took us to this beautiful cafe. It's a famous cafe here. It's a bakery really, and it has these it has mirrors lining the walls, and it's these mirrors made out of jacaranda wood, I think is the name of it. It's a Brazilian rosewood that is not very prevalent anymore, but the cafe's been here for, I don't know, 200 or 300 years, and Queen Elizabeth had been to the cafe and liked this certain type of ice cream that they had, so we tried that. We tried a bunch of different desserts. We had coffee there. It's the only latte I've had here because lattes are not like a thing, and I'm like dying for lattes. But we went to a grocery store and bought this like coffee milk mix thing. That's what I've been having. So latte is just not a thing. And when I asked the lady, I was translating it on Google Translate in the grocery store. I was asking her for creamer, and she was like, no. And then I showed her a picture of a creamer, and she goes, no, in Brazil, like coffee creamer is not a thing. So I couldn't even find creamer. So I haven't even made like raw coffee, which is this mix that I've been drinking. But the grocery store is like right. We're in an Airbnb because it's a lot more cost effective to just stay in the Airbnb, and we booked it 3 months ago, so we got a really good deal. And there's 2 grocery stores like within a block here, so just go and buy like meat and cheese and have sandwiches, whatever, just kind of doing a mix. so we went, he took us to that cafe, and that was like a bonus that wasn't even part of our tour. He was really amazing, this guy. He just took us all over, and then he kind of started telling us his life story, because my Chaplan thing comes out all the time, and I just pull things out of people, I guess. And he just started, at one point, started crying, telling us about this movie, Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. This part of this movie, it's a religious part that he was really touching to him. And then he started telling us about his life, and it was really sad to me. He got divorced, his wife divorced him basically, and he was wealthy. He had made a bunch of money, and then she divorced him, and so he just left her with everything, and left her with the house and the cars, and he didn't care. And that was 20 years ago, and now he's a guide, and he does all these other things. And it was just really sad, because he was kind of, not kind of, he really was excommunicated from his children, and he had 3 children. It's this whole story. And so because I was like really into this story with him and trying to help him work through it a little bit, in my mind anyway, he was very resistant, but he allowed part of that to happen. And he said, "You are a godly woman." And I said, "Oh, thank you," because that's quite a compliment. Because, and I actually do believe I'm a godly woman. I strive to be a godly woman. And so he was telling, the other people that, "Oh, she's a godly woman," and they were like, "What?" It was just kind of a weird thing that we met this guy that understood that, because a lot of people don't understand that. And just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're a godly person. So that's a whole nother video we could do. But the story has gotten so long. But it's just an update kind of on my vacation here. And so that was really cool. So he took us to the Celeron steps, which are these colorful steps that is an attraction here for even Brazilians. And you go there and you have to wait like 30 minutes in a line to get on the steps and take your photo. And it's a lot of it is Brazilians coming from all over, and they want to get a photo there. He took us to where the Olympic torch had come in when the Olympics were in Rio. When was that? I don't know, 2018 or something. So the torch is not lit, but the little thing is there where it was lit at the time. And so people take photos there too. He took us to a lot of extra places that were not in our tour. And the second day he took us, because we ran out of time, so then he took us even more places, and we were like, wow. And so he took us to this monastery that had another beautiful gold chapel or church inside of it there. And that's where the monks do Gregorian chants in the evenings. And we went back in the evening, but they didn't have it that one day, so we missed that. I would have loved to see the Gregorian chants. But so my draw to come here was Christ the Redeemer, and all this other stuff is kind of, bonus for me. So we also went to, after our time with him, we went to Sugarloaf Mountain on the cable car tour, and Christ the Redeemer, we did both of those in one morning. It was like a half-day tour, and Christ the Redeemer was so packed with people you couldn't hardly move. Because G20 was here this week. We had no idea that was going to be happening this week. So right down here at the end of the Copacabana boardwalk, there's a fort. So we walked down there to try to go to the fort one day, and it was closed because of G20. and that is leaders from all over the world. It's 20 countries, I think. I was reading, it was Argentina, France, and the US, the UK, a bunch of different leaders were here. And there's this hotel called the Fairmont. The Fairmont Hotel right there by the fort is where they were all staying. So it was basically closed because they were going to let the G20 leaders in there to go and visit the fort that day, I guess. And because it's normally open, we were told. And so they had all this security around there. There's even a battleship right in the water right outside the fort, and all these security around there and military around the hotel. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's where they're, and that because that's where the president of this country and the president of France and a bunch of diplomats were all staying there. So that's why we couldn't see the fort. And then they said that Christ the Redeemer was going to be closed. Well, it had been closed. It had been closed a few days prior, and then it was going to be closed again for the G20 leaders. So they were going to take them on a private thing up there, obviously, and Sugarloaf Mountain. So we got in like 2 days before they shut the whole thing down. And that's why it was so packed with people, because everyone knew they weren't going to be able to get in. They couldn't get in like a few days prior and then a few days after. And so everybody was coming on those few days that we got in. But I'm just glad that we got in, because I didn't want to come all the way here and not do the main thing that we came to do. So we got photos up there. It was really hard because it was like wall to wall people. You couldn't even get a spot to look out or anything like that. It was just so hard. But then our guide for that was just this wonderful guide, a very sweet, nice guy, and we had a really great time there and on that tour. So we're kind of toured out now. We're just gonna walk down there to the beach and probably have there's like a burger place or something. We've had a lot of Brazilian food, which is good. It's a little bit different than Costa Rica. It's hard for me to wrap my head around being here because I'm used to being in Costa Rica, and it's very similar, but it's also very different. I mean, obviously I don't speak Portuguese. I can understand a lot of it, but I can't speak it. So I've had to use Google Translate, and that's just kind of odd because I'm used to just being able to speak the language. And to me, the difference between here and there is mostly the people that I know. Growing up and knowing people is so much different than just coming somewhere and not knowing anyone and just meeting tour guides. It's just very different. So that's different for me. I would really need a community of people. That's what I love about Costa Rica, and I also know that country. I don't know anything here. So I'm just glad that we were able to go to that seventh wonder of the world. It was amazing. So I thought I would do a devotion. I should have done the devotion first and then given you the little blurb here, but whatever. I'm kind of discombobulated anyway. It's a 3-hour time change, which is not bad, but I'm just now used to it, and then we're leaving the day after tomorrow. So I have to get used to it again. So I thought I would do one of these devotions. I have in the YouVersion app where I have written my devotions, and I still need to write another one, but I haven't done that yet either. I'm looking at, let's see, my completed plans. I think I have like 300 completed plans in here. And what's funny is I challenged myself. I wanted to do the streak on the YouVersion app for 1,000 days. And I did that a long time ago, and then I just kept going, and now I've been on here like 1,812 days, like over 4 years I've had this streak going on YouVersion app. And because I was in the prayer team and I was a community leader at Life Church, I was in these groups where you would do these plans together. So right now, currently, I have like 20 plans that I'm doing, and I have requests for like 2 more that want to read the plan with me. So you'll get in these groups and someone will say, I want to read this plan with you, and then you read the plan. But I have like 20 plans that I have not finished that are still open in here that I've done like 1 or 2 days of and didn't finish them. So I'm gonna look for one that we can do a quick devotion. Here's one called Why Wait? So we're just gonna open that, and why is it not letting me in here? So this is Why Wait by Carol Escaros, and I guess I'm picking this because I feel like why wait to go do the things that you want to do in life, and I have had to put a lot off because of my doctoral program, and so it's been hard to put a lot of things off that I wanted to do. So we'll just read this and see. It's only 4 days. So, oh, this is a sample of day 1. Okay. Why does it keep giving me a QR code? I may not be able to get in here. So there was like 20 people reading this plan with me. I don't know why I can't get into it though. It keeps wanting me to get the Bible app, but I don't want to do that. Because I just went to Bible.com because obviously I'm using my phone to record. And so I'm on my laptop here. I can't seem to get into it. So I will have to get to a place where I can read this later on to you, the devotion. So I'm sorry about that, but I guess this became more of an update on my trip, my life, and so I guess this will be my only long video from Rio de Janeiro, and because I'm leaving in a day and a half, but I do have a lot of vlogs from here. I have a vlog of us going to the mall and going to all these different places. I really tried to take a lot of videos, so you will see a video on that. So take care, guys. Thanks for watching, and subscribe, like and subscribe, and hit the bell so that you can be notified, and I'll see you in the next video.